Your mind can be a weapon, or it can become a prison. And for many people, it has quietly become a prison. Not because they lack intelligence, but because they think too much. Overthinking rarely enters your life as something dangerous. It enters disguised as caution, as responsibility, as wisdom. You call it being careful, being prepared, being thoughtful. But slowly, it changes. What once felt like awareness becomes mental noise, and what once felt like thinking becomes suffering. Because overthinking does not sharpen the mind forever. At some point, it begins to consume it. A simple decision becomes exhausting. A small mistake becomes a mental storm. A future possibility becomes 1,000 imagined disasters. And without realizing it, you stop living in reality. You start living inside scenarios, inside fears, inside thoughts. That is where destruction begins. Not in dramatic collapse, but in silent erosion. Overthinking steals action. It makes you hesitate before every move, question every instinct, doubt every decision. You wait until you feel certain, until you feel ready, until every risk disappears. But that moment never comes, because certainty is a myth. And while you keep waiting, life keeps moving. Opportunities pass, chances disappear. Dreams stay dreams, not because you were incapable, but because overthinking kept you frozen. And paralysis is often mistaken for safety. But it is not safety, it is stagnation. The cruel part is, overthinking feels productive. It feels like you're solving something. But often, you are only rehearsing fear, again and again and again. The mind keeps spinning, yet nothing changes, because thought alone changes nothing. Action does, movement does, courage does. Overthinking convinces you that one more thought will bring peace, but peace does not come from endless analysis. It comes from release, from trust, from letting go. Because the more tightly you try to control life in your mind, the more life slips away in your hands. And maybe that is the deepest trap. Overthinking makes intelligent people powerless, not because they lack answers, but because they refuse to move without perfect answers. And perfection has destroyed more potential than failure ever has. Think about it. How many opportunities were lost to hesitation? How many words remained unsaid? How many goals delayed? How many nights ruined by thoughts that never became reality? That is the cost, and it is heavy. Overthinking doesn't just steal progress, it steals peace. It steals presence. Even in beautiful moments, the mind wanders into worry. Even during rest, thoughts keep working. Even in silence, there is noise. And eventually, you become tired. Not physically, mentally, spiritually. A kind of exhaustion sleep cannot fix, because the battle is internal. But here is what overthinking does not want you to realize. Thoughts are not commands. Not every thought deserves attention. Not every fear deserves belief. Not every possibility deserves obsession. You do not have to follow every thought your mind creates. That changes everything, because freedom begins there. The moment you stop obeying every fearful thought, the moment you stop negotiating with every doubt, the moment you say, enough, I move anyway. That is where power returns, because the cure for overthinking is not more thinking. It is disciplined action. Action cuts through mental fog. Action creates clarity. Action builds confidence. While thought often multiplies uncertainty, confidence is not born in the mind. It is built through movement, through doing, through surviving mistakes, through realizing failure did not destroy you. And once you realize that, fear loses power. Overthinking survives by convincing you disaster waits behind action. But life often rewards movement. The door opens after you knock. The lesson comes after you begin. The confidence arrives after you act, not before. So stop waiting for your mind to become silent before you move. Move and let silence come later. Because the people who overcome overthinking are not people with no doubts. They are people who refuse to let doubt lead. They act while uncertain. They move while afraid. They trust while uncomfortable. And that is strength. Overthinking also feeds on trying to control everything, every outcome, every opinion, every future possibility. But control is a fragile illusion. Life was never meant to be fully controlled, only lived. And peace comes when you stop trying to mentally conquer every unknown and begin trusting yourself to handle what comes. That is maturity. That is freedom. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop analyzing and start living. Say what you feel. Take the step. Make the decision. Begin the project. Send the message. Take the risk. Move. Because hesitation has already stolen enough. And maybe the real tragedy is not overthinking itself, but the life it prevents. The bold version of you. The calm version of you. Buried beneath mental noise. Waiting. Not for more thought, but for action. Because your mind was never meant to cage you. It was meant to serve you. Use it. Do not be ruled by it. And remember this, most of what you fear never happens. Most of what you overanalyze does not matter. Most of what keeps you awake at night will not define your life. But the habit of overthinking, if left unchecked, can. So stop feeding it. Stop worshiping every doubt. Stop making fear your advisor. There comes a point where thinking more is not wisdom. It is self-destruction. And that point arrives sooner than people realize. Stop overthinking before it destroys your confidence, before it destroys your peace, before it destroys your potential. Because life does not belong to those who think the longest. It belongs to those who move despite uncertainty, to those who act despite fear, to those who refuse to let their own mind become their enemy. And maybe true power is not having complete control over your thoughts, but refusing to be controlled by them. That is self-mastery. That is freedom. That is strength. And the moment you stop letting fear speak louder than purpose, you become dangerous. Because a person who can control their mind cannot easily be defeated.